All right, sir. In your best French, who did the Hornets draft at number 6?
Yeah, Tidjane Salaun. Certainly a first-round talent. Definitely a bit of a reach at pick 6. He is, a guy that's going to take some time. It's a project of sorts. I thought he would have made like a little more sense with a franchise like, say, the Thunder, that are really, really, like, they're already good, and but they have this great player development system, and there would be time for him, right, to marinate,
Right.
And to get better, and maybe in 2 years, all of a sudden he's ready to be a contributor, and he can kind of come along slowly. I think he'll certainly, it's going to take time and patience in Charlotte with him too. But it is interesting because this is a team that, in theory, is looking for guys you might be expecting to make, young development pieces, but maybe some you would be expecting to see, on the floor next season too. And I'm not sure how much Salaun is going to be, on the floor in Charlotte in a Hornets uniform. He's still just 18 years old.
Right.
And he's got to work out lower body mechanics, but the shot looks well. He played well as a teenager in a good pro league in France this year. So he has some shooting upside. He gets high steal rate in the French leagues. You can see him. He gets a lot of like pick 6 steals. So he's got some defensive upside too, but he's going to have to get better guarding one-on-one in space. He can't really do all that much with the basketball unless it's, catch and shoot.
Right. He's not a great handler.
Yeah, catch, go, drive, and make the next pass. Like, he's got some decent sort of like extra pass connector skills, I think, that assuming the shot comes together, like, could be unlocked. But it was, and he's got a good motor and he plays hard too. But like, I'll be honest with you, like, Salaun was the guy that when, covering the Hornets for the draft, like, I scouted him only sort of like out of due diligence,
Right.
I thought he was the guy that might land more in the middle of the first round. And again, I thought a team like the Thunder or whomever might be sort of like more, or the Grizzlies or something like that might be a little bit more for his liking, but certainly a talent to bring into the mix. It's just gonna take some time. And I think this does signal that Charlotte is planning to, I'd hesitate to say the word tank, but I guess they are trying to tank, like basically taking a multi-year approach to rebuilding, right? Like that's what this signals, and it'll be interesting to see how they play free agency too now.
All right, so let me just ask, is there somebody that you would have rather the Hornets had taken, Brian Geisinger at bgeis_bird, Buzzbeat podcast guy? Who would you have rather heard the name of?
Well, I really wanted Ron Holland II. I think I mentioned that previously. Then he ended up going one pick earlier to the Pistons at 5. I really like Rob Dillingham, who ended up going at 8, being traded from San Antonio now with the Timberwolves. Honestly, Salaun as a pick is not even like that bad. It's just if you were going to go for him, I thought maybe there's a chance they could have traded back,
Right.
Especially as teams were trying to get into the mix to draft Donovan Clingan, who goes, one pick later to Portland. It seemed for a second there like, maybe Memphis would try to trade up, or maybe Portland would even go up a slot. And I assume there were calls being made, but, from the war room in Charlotte, nothing gets done. That would have been really nice if you could have moved back a couple of picks, you squeeze out a second-round pick or two from another team or whatever, and then you can get your guy, at 9 or something like that. And it's maybe a little bit more in his range, even if it is still a reach. There were a few other guys like Matas Buzelis, who ended up going 11 to Chicago. I really liked a lot. Nikola Topic, who went 12 to the Thunder. I mean, dealing with injuries, but a guy that I wouldn't be surprised if he returns, top 3, top 2 value in this draft. And then Devin Carter, who ended up going 13, the guard out of Providence, who went 13 to Sacramento. Like, incredibly sticky defender, great guard athlete, plus, 8-9-inch wingspan, and, can shoot off the move, and got better as a pick and roll guy too. So those were some of the names I probably would have circled ahead of Salaun. But I'm intrigued to see how the development starts with him in Charlotte.
I think it's worth pointing out. You mentioned the Hornets. Maybe they're in kind of tank mode. I don't know that they'll be so bad that they'll be tanking for the first pick in the draft. They'll be in that mix, but at some point, I mean, Lamelo Ball. I mean, it's not like they just drafted him last year. He's not old, but he's been hurt a bunch. You do want to take advantage of what you've got in terms of Ball and Miller and Mark Williams. You can't be looking that far down the road. And what does this mean for Miles Bridges, by the way?
I mean, I think there's a chance, again, if they're like signaling that they're, gunning for a top 4 pick in 2025, it would make me think that he's less likely to return. And whether that was him just sort of like walking or them trying to figure out a sign and trade, that's a pretty complicated process, but something in theory they could do, or maybe I guess they do bring him back and they think, having him here is not going to impact winning all that much, and maybe they can, move him down the line at some point or whatever. My guess is it signals that they're considering moving on from him. I'm not, but like I wouldn't be surprised, obviously if they throw him money and bring him back. And yeah, to your point about LaMelo, like it is worth mentioning, like he's about to become a max player, like in like a week. Like he starts becoming like he is set up to be on a 25% rookie max contract, rookie extension contract starting next season. So that's happening now. And I do think, like, look, there's no, even if you have the worst record in the league, you're still just having a 14% chance or whatever of getting the number 1 pick after they adjusted the odds. But 2025 is not, as much as Cooper Flagg from Duke is like the prize, like Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, like there's a lot, like it looks like if you get a top 5 pick, there's a chance that like you're adding a potential, all-star in that range.
Which is different from this draft, right?
Yeah, very much. And look, like certainly there will be some all-stars in this draft, like it will, just like inevitably this stuff happens, like guys pop or guys get better than their projections or whatever. But I do think like the thought is, and it is worth noting too, Charlotte's 2025 first-round pick, in theory, like is out the door to San Antonio, but it's lottery protected. So they're, I don't think they were going to, even if Bridges comes back, this is not a playoff team, So it's like, it's not like, I think there's a very, very, very strong chance they retain that pick, but it is important that they retain the pick too, and that they keep that in house. And again, potentially have the chance to use that on a franchise cornerstone type player 12 months from now, to add to the mix of LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Mark Williams, Salaun, Nick Smith Jr. And I don't think the franchise is anywhere close to hear this other thing I'm about to bring up at this moment. But like, if they ever decide to hit like the real hard reset button on it, it is the LaMelo Ball trade, right?
Yeah.
And you try to get 5 first-round picks and swaps and young play, like it would be that,
Right.
But I don't think they're there yet. I mean, he's still just 22 years old. He's an all-star. He just needs to be healthy, because when he's on the court, he's a very good player.
The Knicks would be interested, but he didn't go to Villanova, so we have to rule the Knicks out. All right, Brian Geisinger, your thoughts on Jared McCain, 16 to Philly?
Yeah, I'm very happy for Jared. He went in a range that made a lot of sense, like just outside the lottery in the middle of the first round.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of thought maybe Miami at 15, Philly at 16, Lakers at 17, Magic at 18. Like, I didn't think he'd fall outside of that range. And while I have some questions, like long-term, about a Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain backcourt from a defensive standpoint,
right,
to small guards, Maxey's, after being a good defender in college, has never been a good defender in the NBA. And McCain, there are holes in his defense as well. But two awesome, incredible vibes with both those guys. Yeah. And you add McCain's, his movement, his shooting talent, his willingness to move without the ball, to cut, to set screens. And, like, he showed flashes of a guy that can score out of the pick and roll, can score one-on-one, can get to that little, Villanova-style post-up game in the mid-post and, the Barkley-style drives. So, and I think, assuming you get you get healthy Joel Embiid for a few years, we saw Joel Embiid and J.J. Redick partner up once upon a time with Redick as the guy, running off of screens and handoffs set by Embiid. And I think, McCain can fulfill a similar role. So, love the fit. He gets to go to a good team, one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. And I think because of his ability to move without the ball and shoot, he could start helping them next season too.
All right, Brian Geisinger, a couple of more minutes with him before we let him go. Buzzbeat podcast at @bgeis_bird, our Mr. Basketball. Kyle Filipowski, surprised that he's still on the board, and do you anticipate him being on the board very long tonight?
I am surprised that he's still on the board, for sure. I thought, this is a guy that spent most of the last 12 months pretty safely as like a top 10, top 14, lottery pick. We talked last time I was on with you about how he was slipping a little bit, after the not a great showing at the combine, negative wingspan. He looked a little slow. And some of the other front court guys like Yves Missy, who goes 21 to New Orleans, or Khalil Ware, who goes 15 to Miami, those guys jump up a little bit, Flip falls down a little bit. But I am surprised, to be totally honest with you. I thought one of these teams in the, 22 to 30 range. I thought maybe the floor for him was 29 to Utah or 30 to Boston. I don't think he'll last long in the second round, but it's not a good look that, not only obviously it's tough that he fell. The tough look is that really that he had to sit through all of that in the green room last night. That stinks, and it's not really fair to him that he got some less good advice along the way. But I think Flip is a guy that still has a chance to be in NBA rotations for a long time. A team drafting early in the second round would be smart to snap him up, because he's a guy that I think has a first-round grade and has the makings of a rotation piece for a long time.
Here's how I rationalize it, is that he's not an elite athlete. I think he's an elite basketball player, but not an elite athlete. And the negative wingspan matters. Because there are teams. A lot of teams right now are using these. They want these big men in the first round to be, run and jump guys. We call them rim runners now, right? We want that, and everybody can shoot. So the fact that Kyle can do all those things is good, but they can get that in the second round. I think the fact that he is just not an elite athlete has probably hurt him. But I think even as a second-round pick, he has a chance to make a roster, make a rotation, and have a great NBA career. And maybe he'll get to the second contract quicker.
Yeah, that is one of the plus sides. It's a harder road for sure. There's potentially no guaranteed money in this case. Once you slip out, but teams are still using second-round picks as an important, team-building strategy, and he has a lot to offer a team. And it's not like he's a plotter, he's still even if the athleticism is in the length or not, sort of up to what a lot of teams want. He can move, he can handle in space. He's really strong, and then obviously the way he processes and sees the game, his ability to pass. His ability to fake handoffs, get downhill, all that kind of stuff is really good. So again, I believe in him long term, and hopefully last night was just a small setback, and he can maybe end up on a good team here early in the second round.
All right, real final two things. Dalton Knecht to the Lakers at number 17. People have lost their minds. The steal of the draft. Blah blah blah. I don't know. To me, he's a great offensive player, but the Lakers also need defenders. So is that a great fit for LA?
Yeah, sort of depends. They're looking for two-way guys for the playoffs, right? That you can put around LeBron and AD, and I don't think that's Knecht. He struggled defensively, both on and off the ball. You can overpower him on drives. He spaces out when he's away from the ball. he is a big time shooter, and
Yeah.
not just stand still. He can come off screens, come off pin down flares, relocations, all that sort of stuff, and other levels of the court too. So like, I could see the gravity and passing of LeBron pairing well with Knecht, but like, I don't know if this is a guy that can like see minutes for you in the second round of a playoff series, and he's already 23 years old
right.
too. So older rookie, but I think getting him at 17 is fine. I think there were some thoughts that the Hornets might take him at 6. That was too early for me. But 17, I think it's a decent pick for the Lakers, but I don't think it's doing much to like change their championship equity
Exactly.
for next season.
That was my point. I'm watching all of these people who love there's a lot to like about Dalton Knecht, but they had made it out to see the Lakers got the third best player in this draft at number 17, and I didn't see it that way because I thought he was a one-way player. Bronny James next at 55 for LA?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, today's going to be nonstop Bronny James coverage, it feels like. So ESPN and Clutch Sports, galore. Here it comes. But, yeah, I mean, it seems like that's Rich Paul basically seemingly came out and said the other day, like, if we want him to go at 55 to the Lakers, if he's available, like, we're just going to push the button and they'll do it, So, like, yeah, I guess we'll see.
Harrison Ingram get drafted today?
I'm going to say, I don't know. I'm not sure, but it's important to remember if he doesn't get picked, it's okay because like you can it's not a bad thing to have like a little bit of agency,
right,
determining where you might go as opposed to getting picked at 49 by the Pacers, or you might want to find a better situation or whatever. So I don't know. I'm worried for Harrison to get picked, but I got my fingers crossed.
Brian Geisinger at @bguys_bird, Buzzbeat Podcast, 24/7 Sports, our Mr. Basketball. My man, thank you so much.
You guys have a good day.
You too.